The World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab raises more eyebrows, as he tends to do. He was giving an interview in Thailand during APEC 2022, and he had a very interesting quote for us. He said, the world is transitioning, and we have to make sure that we can mentor people into this new world. And also, China happens to be a pretty dang good role model, and we should just follow the things that they're doing. Now, this is a full 4-minute clip of Klaus Schwab, and I do want to spend some time walking through it. But before we can understand sort of the model that he's very excited about, let's take a look at actually what's going on in China. I mean, he wants the rest of the world to sort of, consider the Chinese approach. They're very, very forward thinking, according to him and their plans. So what is actually going on over there in China? Because there seems to be a lot of unrest. CBS reporting that there is a lot of turmoil on the streets of China, saying that those COVID cases are raging out of control and that the Chinese authorities are having a difficult time keeping things orderly.
Violence erupted at the world's largest iPhone factory in China as more than 6 million people were placed on new COVID lockdowns. Crowds of workers who have been under grueling COVID restrictions clashed with authorities in hazmat suits. Some demonstrators say the protests began over a bonus pay dispute for the employees who have had to live and work in isolation through COVID outbreaks.
So you can see a lot of the unrest there. We're going to go through a bunch of that. You see different videos are now circulating all over the internet. So I want to talk through sort of each one of those. But let's get a little bit more background from Bloomberg first, because here they tell us the numbers are looking pretty bleak. According to Bloomberg, China's daily COVID tally tops 30,000 for the first time as curbs spread. Tally breaks the threshold. Beijing shoppers are panicking. Zhengzhou is largely locked down. The daily COVID infections broke 30,000 for the first time ever. 31,000 new infections on Thursday, up from Wednesday's 29,000. Capital Beijing saw infections exceed 1,800 on the daily record. They came out with a 20-point virus playbook. Explicit orders. Major cities are locking down. Apartments going down block by block. And there are other curbs on activity. You can see some photographs here of what that looks like. Schools in Beijing have been shut down. Students are switching to online learning. Anyone entering the capital is required to provide a negative PCR test. Zhengzhou, home to Apple's largest iPhone manufacturing site, will be largely locked down for 5 days starting on Friday. Order came after hundreds of workers at the plant known as, quote, iPhone City, clashed with security personnel as tensions boiled over following almost a month under tough restrictions. Elsewhere, Guangzhou won't be put under so-called static management. Local officials are addressing this. And so it does look very chaotic there in China. There's a bunch of very interesting videos that we'll take a look at here in a minute, right after we take a look at our friends 4 Patriots. As you know, a food shortage could be coming, even here in the United States. Experts have written about this as recently as July. Drought, inflation, new policies, they're putting America's food supply to the breaking point. That's why survival food is more important now than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food kits. This is not ordinary food, my friends. We're talking about good for 25 years super survival food. Hand-packed right here in family-owned facilities in the United States, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. These kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, they stack very easily. Different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Easy to make. All you have to do, boil, simmer, and serve. Less than 20 minutes, you've got a delicious meal. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com. Easy. Use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase. Anything in the store, free shipping on orders over $97, freshness guarantee for 1 year after you order. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. You can go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert. Start building your stockpile today. All right. And so now that we know there are serious issues in China, I want to share with you some of these videos that have been floating around the interwebs. And we've got a volume warning, so let's turn this puppy down a little bit. This is a scene outside a city in China where people are getting fed up with the COVID lockdowns, and they are pushing back against the tyranny. Pretty big group. Now, the good news is they're all still wearing their masks, so at least they're not going to catch any virus particles or something. But, the mask is not going to do much against a baton to the face, but it will certainly help with, I guess, air particles or something. That's just one scene. Now, this is other locations and other areas. You see, they are, the stormtroopers are there in white, and the Chinese citizens have now, taken up barricades. They've taken pieces of metal. They are pushing back against these little quarantine lines, right? They're literally trying to lock people into certain geographic regions. They've got concrete barriers or walls that are sort of stacked up, and big throngs of bodies are sort of stacked on the inside, and they are fighting back, demanding this stuff stop. And I'm seeing some people in the chat are saying, yeah, they're welding doors shut. They are doing all sorts of insane things. Yeah, Zach Nichols saying they're welding the door shut out there. I don't doubt that. So that was one scene. Here's another angle of this, right? They're literally throwing barricades. And in this scene, it does look like they're actually pushing the CCP Nazi stormtroopers back out. You can see the stormtroopers are in their white, and the Chinese people are pushing them back. Throwing barricades. Look at this guy. He just threw that barricade. Did you see the distance on that one? It's getting pretty serious out there. Now, you can see, that one had some good distance. Let's see if we can find that. There it is. Look at this one right here. It's like a Frisbee. See that one? Watch this distance on this one. All the way, it's like a javelin. Yeah, it was amazing. Pretty amazing. So, yeah, very, very intense situations there, and you can understand why. This is another scene of Chinese camps that are apparently being built around the areas in certain cities outside of China. Here's a drone video, and it looks like these are modular, livable quarantine facilities that they're just creating in various locations to rehouse people or something. But a lot of people have some concerns about this stuff going up, and the Chinese people are very unhappy about it. Now, that is China, okay? That is the situation on the ground, boots on the ground in China. We have to listen to this weirdo maniac who explains why we all should be indulging in that type of lifestyle, apparently. This is Klaus Schwab explaining China is a great role model for the rest of the world. Let's be just like them.
APEC this year, both the leaders meeting and also the APEC CEO summit, you just spoken at the opening panel, Professor. So how do you see we would be able to, with our capability, to carry on this kind of discussion in the right direction?
We have to define the specific elements of the global system. For example, nature and environment, climate change, and then to see what are actually the areas where we can make true progress, where we can have a real impact. I'm very glad that China is integrated into our initiative to plant 1 trillion trees in the next 10 years by making its own contribution. We have to try with a collaborative platform where we integrate the best people, the most relevant people, and then to work for progress.
Okay, 1 million trees, the best people, the most relevant people to work for progress. And this guy's just going to restructure the whole world. Nobody asked him to do any of this stuff. He's not been elected to anything. He's just some, weird global elite. Don't even have a good label for the guy other than he runs sort of what feels like a superstructure layer of power that we have talked about on this channel that I have argued has as much GDP as at least China, if not as much as at least the United States. If you sort of measure the entities that are a part of the World Economic Forum the capital that they are responsible for, the GDP that their companies sort of churn, and you bundle it all up, and if you attributed that to the World Economic Forum, they would be on par with China. We did the math a long time ago. This guy's saying that now he's going to use that power to maneuver the world into this new era, this beautiful great reset.
Now the base has been formed, but we have to go one step further. We have to have a strategic mood. We have to construct the world of tomorrow.
Oh.
It's a systemic transformation of the world.
What? Nobody asked this guy to transform anything? A systemic transformation of the world? Is he a politician in America?
So we have to define how the world should look like, which we want to come out of this transformation period.
Earlier, we have the great narrative of so-called the globalization. And everybody believe in it, and everybody think this is our shared future. Now, as the world is changing, we need to reshape again the vision, as you just said. But how to bring everybody on board?
So this is always a debate. It's between the Harvard, Oxford geniuses who think that they can micromanage the whole world with their plans and their whiteboards and their PowerPoint slides, that they can just get up there and they can singularly dictate what's good for everybody else, right? It's this communist idea that central planning is the solution, versus the other people who are the tinkerers, who are the people who build stuff from the ground up, who are the actual innovators. They are the tinkerers that actually get things done. The biggest solutions in the world almost never, if ever, come from somebody in an academic research institution somewhere, right? The big solutions are from the people who invent things. They are the tinkerers. They're the people who are anti-fragile. These central planning endeavors have been tried and they failed many times, oftentimes resulting in the deaths of millions, hundreds of millions over the years.
So is now the opinion globalization has failed and we are entering into an era of deglobalization.
We are.
I think that's wrong.
No.
Of course, we have the reshaping of certain supply chains. So for certain physical goods, we may see much more reshoring or homeshoring. In reality, the world has moved closer together because we are moving from a physical world much more in a digital world. And the digital world by nature is much more globally oriented. Now you asked how to do it.
Yes.
So they want everybody online so you're more globally oriented, because if you're limited to your nation state and your local community, well, then you're going to care about your local community. You're not going to care about, global environmental destruction or some, big boogeyman that they're going to put in front of your face. You're not going to listen to them if you're a part of a local community, if you're not plugged into this big global superstructure. So how are they going to do that? Well, they'll keep you isolated. They'll keep you on the internet. They'll keep you petrified about everything. And what else, Klaus?
I think it needs what we feel in the World Economic Forum, a multi-stakeholder approach. It's certainly governments who have to be in the lead,
Governments leading.
Business, most of the solutions will come through innovation from business, and we have to integrate the large population. We have to mentor the population and to show through our good examples that the future requires this change, and the change at the end ultimately will be beneficial for them.
Can you believe this guy? This change is ultimately going to be necessary and it's going to be beneficial for you. The only thing he didn't say is it's going to be very hard and you're going to hate it. He said, ultimately, it's going to be beneficial for you in the end, and it's going to be necessary, and we're going to take you through it whether you like it or not. It's for your own good, and it's not going to come from governments. Why? Because governments are democratic, some of them. We are allowed to participate in them. So rather than allowing the people to have a say, what are they going to do? They're going to mentor us through this. They're going to essentially coerce us into this new process because it's for our own good. Let's listen to that phrase one more time.
shoring. In reality, the world has moved closer together because we are moving from a physical world much more in a digital world. And the digital world by nature is much more globally oriented. Now you asked how to do it.
Yes.
I think it needs what we feel in the World Economic Forum, a multi-stakeholder approach. It's certainly governments who have to be in the lead, but business, most of the solutions will come through innovation from business, and we have to integrate the large population. We have to
Integrate everybody.
mentor the population.
Yeah, they're too
and
stupid.
to show through our good examples that the future requires this change,
Yeah.
and the change at the end ultimately will be beneficial for them.
Future needs it, whether you like it or not. You're good. It's going to be for your own good. Okay, it's just like taking your dog to the vet. Getting his nuts cut off. It's good for you. You're going to like all of it. Just sit there and take it. We'll get you a little treat and a cone for your neck when you come home.
From your perspective, how do you understand this ambition of China to have the Chinese path toward modernization and share it with the developing world?
I respect China's achievements, which are tremendous over the last over 40 years since the opening up and policy and reform policy came into action. I think it's a role model for many countries.
A role model, China.
But I think also we should leave it to each country to make its own decision what system it wants to adopt. And I think we should be very careful in imposing systems. But the Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model
Yeah, it's great.
for quite a number of countries.
Yeah, it's great. Very good for a lot of different entities out there to just adopt this totalitarian, authoritarian, communist model where they just lock you down indefinitely and you have no freedom or control at all. Great model. Klaus Schwab loves that. Would love to see that all over the place. But not, he's not going to force it on you. No, that would be crazy. He'll just sort of, mentor you into this through the corporations. Whether you like it or not, you're not going to have much of a chance. Culture changes, the economics change, the laws change later, right? Rather than starting at the government, why would you start with the government? The government's big, slow, messy. It's hard to control. The people are involved in the government. They slow you down. Go to the corporations. Work with the corporations. Get them to control, optimize for profitability. You guys will make a lot more money if the people are stupid and they just, if we can have this sort of superstructure on top of everything where we all buy from each other, we're all interconnected. We promote your news stories, we sell your books, you promote all our social media companies. There's this big, disgusting cesspool of corporate, governmental fascists who are trying to control everything, and he's very excited about it. China's great. We're very excited to spread this around throughout the world. So that's him. Now, nobody voted for this guy, but evidently he's one of the most powerful people in the world, and he thinks that all of us should be more like China. Now, in China, they are fighting back with sticks and PVC and barricades. They don't have a whole lot of weaponry over there. We do in America. We've got guns, so that type of garbage shouldn't happen here. But Joe Biden says he wants to take those guns away too. This is our president explaining why guns have no redeeming factor at all for anybody.
Red flag laws, period, just based on knowledge, not on parents saying or loved ones saying you should arrest this person now for his own sake. It's ridiculous. We got one of the first red flag laws in the state of Delaware. My son Bo was the one enforcing it. And it made a lot of difference. It saves lives. So that's number one. Number two, the idea we still allow semi-automatic weapons to be purchased is sick. It's just sick. It has no social redeeming value. Zero. None.
Not
Not
Second
a single
Amendment.
solitary rationale for it except profit for the gun manufacturer.
Can you do anything about gun laws during the lame duck, sir?
Nothing redeemable about firearms. Second Amendment's just garbage. The only thing that it's good for is gun manufacturers' profits. Wow.
Try.
What will you try and do?
I'm going to try to get rid of assault weapons.
During the lame duck?
I'm going to do it whenever I got to make that assessment as I get in.
Yikes, very loud.
Start counting the votes.
Mr. President, you said you're directly involved in...
Can you give your assessment on whether Ukraine aid will need to be topped up in the lame duck?
Well, yes. Matter of fact, I just had another drawdown. I signed another drawdown of over $300 million. And there's no time. This is no time to walk away from Ukraine. Not at all. Now, we had a lot of talk in this last election about whether the
You can't have guns, but they're going to send a ton of them over to Ukraine.
other team is going to continue to support Ukraine. I still believe there's enough support there that we can continue.
You're involved in the railroad negotiations. Can you talk about what the holdup is, Mr. President?
I can't because it's the middle of negotiations still. But
have you been in touch with parties again?
My team has been in touch with all.
All right, so they're talking about the rail labor union issue that might cause all sorts of additional problems for the supply chain. But that's Joe Biden. Now, he said that nobody was very interested in, or nobody should have guns. There's no redeeming factor to have a gun. Possessing a gun is outrageous, which is strange because his son, Hunter, wanted a gun and even lied about one to get one.
Trika, tonight there is movement in the Hunter Biden criminal investigation, with sources telling CBS News the FBI believes it has sufficient evidence against the president's son.
For what? Guns.
Past due taxes. Sources familiar with the probe told CBS News investigators were also looking at allegations that Hunter Biden made false statements on a gun registration form and may have disposed of a gun improperly.
So it figures to be a fairly straightforward charge to prove, and it carries a significant penalty under federal law.
Of course, he has not been charged because he's the daddy president's son. But very curious, Joe Biden was also asked about this by Jake Tapper. Hey, Mr. President, you know, you've got a big anti-gun policy. Why did your son try to buy one illegally?
Our reporting, CNN's reporting and the Washington Post reporting suggests that prosecutors think they have enough to charge your son Hunter for tax crimes and a false statement about a gun purchase. Personally and politically, how do you react to that?
Well, first of all, I'm proud of my son. This is a kid who got, not a kid, he's a grown man. He got hooked on, like many families have had happen, hooked on drugs. He's overcome that. He's established a new life. He is, I'm confident that he is, what he says and does are consistent with what happens. Can
you release his records for us? We have a lot of questions for him.
And was straightforward about it. I'm proud of him. He came along and said, by the way, this thing about a gun, I didn't know anything about it, but turns out that when he made my application to purchase a gun, what happened was I guess you get asked the question, are you on drugs, you use drugs? He said no. And he wrote about saying no in his book. So I have great confidence in my son.
Well, why did he need a gun, Joe? I mean, it was something that you said was completely irredeemable. Why did he go buy one or attempt to if it's so irredeemable? And he's the smartest man you know. That's our president explaining away the double standards that exist for his son and your son. His son's okay. He can do whatever he wants, commit a bunch of crimes, lie on gun applications. But if you even think about owning a gun, you're irredeemable. And all you care about is gun profits for gun manufacturers. All right. So you get how that goes. Now, Klaus Schwab, of course, one of the worst people ever, who is unelected and seemingly in control of the future of humanity. We'll, of course, continue to cover that. Thank you for following along as we do, hitting that like button wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll see you on the next one.